rumor. Dover Acher, another shot, because the Brisa told us Alamad Beis that people are compared to the Gei Hayam, to the fish. Ma dogim shebayam kol hagadol mechaverei b'leias chaverei. Just like fish, the bigger fish eats the small fish. Af b'nei adam. Human nature is the same way. Ilmolei meirash al malchus. If it wasn't for a law and order that's enforced by the kingdom, by the jurisdiction, kol hagadol mechaverei b'leias chaverei. Anyone greater than his friend would swallow his friend up. In other words, even in the most civilized environments, might makes right, unless there's a higher authority, a jurisdiction that enforces law. Behind it, not. That's what we learned in the Mishnah. You should daven for peace of the malchus. If it wasn't for the fear that people have of the establishment, Ish Esrei Eyu Chayim Beloi. A person would literally swallow up his friend. Actually, that's not literally, it's figuratively. I wonder if the halacha of being mispal b'shleim shel malchus apply in a malchus that does not properly enforce laws and keeps the place safe. Because the Mishnah says Canada.
You don't mind mentioning.
We'll call a spade a spade. I wonder what the halacha is. The other thing is, I remember in the older Sidurim, they used to say a special tefillah. I think on Shabbos they used to make a Misha Berach for the Medina.
Right.
And that don't just mean Medina Israel, even for America.
Right.
Remember this old Sidurim, the Tikkun Meir Sidurim that we used to have in the shul growing up before Archel came out? So they had That's right. But they used to have a tefillah for the United States of America. I wonder why we don't say that anymore. I wonder, because everyone used to say it tefillah for Medina. I wonder what the answer is.
Because we're Canadian.
Yeah, but then we should say tefillah for Canada. But I guess it only applies if they enforce law.
That's right.
But once upon a time, we did have law and order here, and I don't recall that there was ever a tefillah made for the country that we live in. I know Reb Shmuel Kamenetsky keeps an American flag in front of his house, and I'm thinking he's always mocked to be a good patriot. We're being hosted by countries that are Medina Shel Chesed, so we have to show that we appreciate. Especially now, they attacked Iran and helped protect Eden. Okay, so Zok to Gemara Viter. Reb Chanina bar Papa Rami. He had a stira. Ksiv Shakai loy mitzanua sagi koyach. We don't find that the Rebbeinu Shalom comes with a heavy hand. Uksiv God ladin in Rav koyach. Yet the other pasuk says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes with a Rav koyach with a heavy hand. Uksiv, another pasuk says, we say it in the Shira. Yimincha Hashem nedar b'koyach. So is the Kodesh Baruch Hu heavy-handed or is he soft-handed? Zok to Gemara Lekasha. Kan b'shas adin, kan b'shas mocham. When Hashem is paskening on us, he's judging us, he goes with a very soft hand. But when Hashem is fighting our wars for us, then the Kodesh Baruch Hu comes with 30,000-pound bunker busters to obliterate our enemies. Rab Chama bar Chinina Rami. Rab Chinina bar Chama asked the stira. Ksiv chema ainli. Kodesh Baruch Hu says, I have no chema. Uksiv Noikem Hashem Ubalchem. It says that Kodesh Baruch Hu is a Balchem. So what is it? Dr. Malay Kasha. It depends in respect to whom. Can be Israel, can be Oiv Dekicha. When are you talking about Kodesh Baruch Hu's Hanhaga with us? Their Chema is deleted. But when it comes to Kodesh Baruch Hu's Hanhaga with the Goyim, there Kodesh Baruch Hu exhibits Chema. Chinam Papa Omar, Chema Ainli, he dashes the pasuk differently. The pasuk of Chema Ainli that we quoted first is to be read as follows. Chema Ainli, I have no Chema. You know why? Shekvar Nishbati, because I already swore to Moshe that I won't apply Chema anymore. But, Dr. Moshe weiter, Miyatneni, Shaloi Nishbati. Halavai, I wouldn't have sworn. Had I not sworn, a Yashamar B'Shayis, I would have destroyed the world already. In other words, it's only the fact that I swore off of Chema that's now protecting the world from its averis. let's have a quick look at Toises, the top Toises. Frek Toises ve'in hakshois miperik dalad nedarim the muchach the Moshe hargoy lechema. In the Gemara Nedarim, it tells us that Moshe killed the midah of chema. The ikal trei chema have a kiddushani nami. There's different levels of chema. So the chema that Moshe Rabbeinu obliterated from the world is not necessarily the chema that we're discussing here. Behind the armory, Rabbi Alexandri, and this is what Rabbi Alexandri said. Now, what is Rabbi Alexandri referring to? We're trying to say what we just discussed applies to what Rabbi Alexandri said. What are we talking about? So there's a machlokes between Rashi and Tosfos. Rashi says, "V'hainu de Rabbi Alexandri adela ilkoi." We're going back on what the Gemara said earlier. Deina kadosh baruch hu ba b'trunyam briyosa, which actually is like a blot ago. Tosfos says, how does it make sense that we're referring back to something that we said such a long time ago? As Rashi says, "First your country is the koi ahi the karmino il deina kadosh baruch hu ba b'trunyam briyosa." Well, here perishai the ifstik letuva. It's too far away that now the Gemara is referencing it. The Koyahad the Sola can be Yisrael can be the Kachavim. The Gemara says that the Rebbeinu Shalom has a much harsher stance in respect to the Goyim. He has chema with them and not with Klal Yisrael. The Kamrina and the Baal Chema Koy Ha'ov the Kachavim, and that's what the Gemara here is comparing to Rabbi Alexandri. And let's see what Rabbi Alexandri said. The Amar Rabbi Alexandri Ma'dichsiv B'Haya B'Yamahu, in that day, the day of reckoning, Avakesh lahashmides kol hagoyim. I'm going to be seeking sort of kavayachal permission to destroy the goyim. Avakesh mimi, who's HaKadosh Baruch Hu looking for permission from to destroy the goyim? Omar Kadosh Baruch Hu avakesh b'nigni shalhem. I want to look in their logbooks, in their diaries, in their Sefer Divrei Yomim, to see what they've done. Im yesh lahem schos eftem, if they have some merit. With that merit, I will redeem them and not destroy them. V'imlav ashmidem, but if not, I'm going to destroy them. So this is the lotion of being medactic with the goyim b'chut asayra. So according to Rashi, what it means is, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is very just. He will only exact punishment from them if they're worthy of the punishment. But what Tosfos is learning, it's going back that the HaKadosh Baruch Hu applies chema to the goyim, meaning if they're deserving total hashmada, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give them. The fact that Hashem is medactic with them is a harsh approach compared to, I guess, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu judges us, he doesn't look exactly at the facts. He's more lenient with us. The Hainu de Amar Rava, and that's what Rava said. And once again, Rashi says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu don ovdei k'chavim b'dikta. Rashi sticking to his shita that we're referring to the theme that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is just and gives the goyim a fair chance. My dechsiv, ach loy be'i yishlach yad im befidoi lahem shua. Now this is the pasuk in the Yosy, and the pasuk shot of the pasuk was, ach loy be'i yishlach yad. Even though I'm suffering from all of these ailments and pain in the grave, that goes away. And befidoi lahem shua, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't put illness on somebody in the grave. But we're darshaning it much differently. Amalem HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael, Keshanidan es Yisrael, ein anidan noisam ka'ovdei k'chav. I will not judge Klal Yisrael like a goy. Ach loy v'i yishlach yad. I'm not going to judge the Yidden like I do the goyim. What is loy v'i? That's the method with which HaKadosh Baruch Hu judges the goyim. Dechsiv ava asimena. The corruption and the averis that the goy does, that itself is going to come and destroy the goy. That's not how I treat the Yidden. Ela ani nifra mehen kepid shel tarnagoyles. In other words, instead of the averis of the goyim coming in one fell swoop and consuming them, which is la'asad lavai, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu lets the goyim get away with their averis in olam hazeh, and then la'asad lavai, he takes all of their averis combined and he wipes them out and takes away their olam haba. By Klal Yisrael, HaKadosh Baruch Hu pays back right away, but a little bit like the pecking of a chicken in the ashba, pecking a little bit at a time. So, Ach loy v'yishlach yad. HaKadosh Baruch Hu won't wipe us out like he wipes up the goyim. Rather, in bepidoi lehenshua, HaKadosh Baruch Hu punishes us like a little chicken, slowly pecking away at it. So we have small yisurim along the way in Olam Hazeh, so that we are clean when it comes to Olam Haba. Davar acher, afilu ein Yisrael oisen mitzvah lefanai, ki ma'at. Even if Klal Yisrael doesn't do many mitzvahs, they do few mitzvahs. So maybe a Kadosh Baruch Hu wouldn't extend the effort to gather those mitzvahs together, so they accumulate into a big mass. There's only little bits and pieces, little crumbs of seeds of mitzvahs that we do, not a single critical mass. Rebbeinu will gather up all those tiny little mitzvahs to bring them together and create a big mountain out of them. Shenemar im bepidoi lahem shua. Which again, the Pashup shot is in the grave. There's no tsar, but what it means is here, but even like a pitch shall turn the goyim, and even a little bit, gathering a little bit at a time, Hakadosh Baruch Hu judges us. Davar acher, another shot is Pischar shemishavin lefonai. When Klal Yisrael cries to me, cries for Yeshua, ani ma'ishia oisam, that creates the sharusa de lasata that Rebbeinu Shem comes and saves us when he hears that we cry out to him. Behind the Omer Rababa, it says in the pasuk, "Va'anoichi eftem," I want to redeem them. Meaning, yes, I give them tsar, a little bit here and a little bit there, because I want to preserve them, and I don't want their averis to pile up. So I'm doing it for their own good. V'hema dibru alai kasavim, and they speak lies about me, that I'm hurting them. They speak about me that I'm hurtful to them and I cause them sorrows. They don't realize that what I'm doing is I'm trying to clean their averis down and mow the grass, so to speak, so that losid lavai, they'll be pure. And I said I'll be paid to them with the tzedakah that they gave in olam hazeh, kedei sheyizku la'olam haba, so they should be zoichet olam haba. The Hamer Dibru alike Kazavim, and they're complaining, "Oi, why does everything cost us so much? Why are we having such a hard life?" Adarabah, that's what's spying their Olam Haba. Behind the Amar Papi Mishmei the Rava. My Dechsev, it says in the pasuk, "Bandi Yisarti, I cause Yisurim, but Chazakti Zra'osim, I'm strengthening their arm. Ve'elah Yachshavura, and they think bad of me." Amar Kodesh Baruch Hu, Ani Amarti, I said, "Yisrael be Yisurim by the Mazeh. Let me give Klal Yisrael Yisurim by the Mazeh. So they should be pure and clean and strong and powerful when they come to Olam Haba. But they think I'm just mean to them and I don't love them and I'm causing them problems. What I'm doing for them is extremely helpful to them and it's only out of love. Now we have an interesting story. Now in the olden days, the clergy, the great Rabbanim, didn't even have to pay secular taxes. So Mishtabach Lahu Rabavo Lamini Rav Safra. Rabbi Vo was telling the Minim, the Apikorsim, who were, I guess, working for the tax department, about Rav Safra, the Adam Gadol, that he's a great learned Talmud Chacham, and therefore he shouldn't have to pay tax. And in fact, Shavkulei Michsa the Tleiser Shnim. They actually said you don't have to pay tax for 13 years. He was relieved of the tax burden because of the fact that he was a Talmud Chacham. It's interesting that he was a Talmud Chacham, so he probably didn't make so much money. He probably didn't have to pay much tax anyway, because he probably didn't earn enough to pay tax. But I'll call upon him, he didn't have to pay tax. Yom Echad, one day, I don't think in those days they had income tax. I think it was like a head tax in those days, or property tax. So Yom Echad, one day, Ashkechuhu, they found him. Amrulay, they asked him, you're a Talmud Chacham, right? We give you a tax break. Let's see what you know. We have a problem. Ksiv, it says, Rak eschem yodati mikol mishbechois adam. Since I only know you, Klal Yisrael, you're my beloved nation. Al kain efkaid alechem es kol avon yisrael. That's why I'm going to punish you for your affairs. So the Minim asked, what type of svar is that? Man de islay sisei. If someone is angry, barachmei masikle, he takes it out on those that he loves. Because since you're my close, you're my loved ones, you I'm going to punish. That's a very difficult thing to understand. Ishtik. Rav Safra did not have an answer. He couldn't answer that. They put a suda around his neck. They wanted to choke him because they thought that for some reason he didn't want to give them the answer and he was withholding the information. So they were trying to coerce him. They were trying to coerce him to give the answer. The Kamatsarule, and they were torturing him. I think the Ben Yoda speaks out a very interesting thought as to why they did that. I mean, I guess these minim were also Talmid Chacham. They felt that a Talmid Chacham is supposed to be married to the Torah, therefore he doesn't have to pay taxes. But here, you're not a Talmid Chacham, and you're sort of making believe like you're married to the Torah, so like you're having relations with an Ish. So you deserve chenek. So that's why they wanted to choke him. That's what that's for the Ben Yehoyada. So also, Rabbi Vo saw that they were attacking Rab Safra. Ashichinu Amrlahu Amai Mitzarisule. Why are you torturing the great Rab Safra? Amrle, what do you mean? Velav Amrit Law Dadam Gadalu. You told us he's a big Talmid Chacham, but Velayada Lamemer Lam Perusha Depsuka. Yet he can't answer a simple question that we have on this pasuk. Amrlahu. So Rabbi Vo told Rab Safra, told the meaning, what are you talking about? Amar the Amri Lechu B'Tanoi. I said he's a great person because he knows the Mishnais and the Brises. B'Kroi mi Amri Lechu. I never told you that he's a Baki in Tanakh. I said he's a Baki in Psukim. Amr so they asked him, I don't understand. You, Rabbi Abba, you are also a Baki in Tanakh. Maishnu Atun di Adison. How come you know the answers to these things? Amalu, because Anan the Shchinon Gaveichon, I live amongst Apikorsim. I know you're always going to be peppering me with questions from Tanakh to try to prove your apikorsis. So therefore, that's why I made sure to become well versed in Tanakh, so I'll have the response to your questions. But Inu, where Safra comes from, they're not peppered with apikorsis, and therefore they don't spend their time learning Tanakh. They spend their time focusing on the Mishnahs of Brises. Fine. Omar said, okay, so lay Malon so you tell us what's the answer to our question. Why is it that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will punish the people that he loves? Amalu, Shababa answered very simply. Emshal lahem moshel. Let me give you a moshel. La'adam shenoisha mishnei b'nei adam. Somebody is owed money by two different people. Mr. 1 owes him $100,000 and Mr. 2 owes him $100,000. He's a close friend of Mr. 1. But number 2, he doesn't like very much. I think when he lent him the money, he did like him. But since he lent him the money, he became a soine. That's just my I have a nifr many matmat. With the person who he loves, I know it's hard for you to pay me back $100,000, so give me $1,000 a year. So it will slowly bring down your balance. Soinoi nifr many b'vasachas. His soine will say, you're not going to pay me a penny a day. I want full payment right now. So to the Rabban Yishloim. Why did Rabban say, since I love you, I'm going to punish you? It means since I love you, I'm going to punish you now a little bit at a time, so that you'll be pure by the time you come to Gan Eden. But the Rosh Hashem says, no, don't pay. And then when it comes to Olam Haba, boom, then he exacts full payment. We're talking about someone who knows his Navi and doesn't know he knows his Mishnah, not his Navi. So they say over that when Rav Baruch Ber got married by his first marriage, he married into a Chassidish family. I guess it was a wealthier family. And being that it's a Chaytan Talmid Chacham, the first Yom Tov that he was by his Shver, the people in the shul asked him, so what yoitris do you say today? As a Talmid Chacham, they figured he would know the proper yoitris. But Baruch Ber was a Litvish, he didn't know from yoitris. He said, I don't know, look at the Siddur, whatever the Siddur says, that's the yoitris. And that created a big story. This is a Talmid Chacham, he doesn't know what yoitris are. And it led to a decay of the relationship. And eventually it led to a get. The father demanded a get. Because you fooled me. I took you on as a son-in-law. I thought you were a Talmid Chacham, and I see that unfortunately you're not what you were advertised to be. So, by the get, Rav Baruch was such a big Talmid Chacham, he slugged up the get 3 times. So the Mesadri get were writing the get, and he pointed out this problem, that problem, and throughout the writing of the get, the father-in-law realized that not only was Rav Baruch Talmid Chacham, he was a bigger Talmid Chacham than the Dayanim of the city who were writing the get. So the Shver said, you know what? On second thought, let's forget the get. So Rav Baruch says, sorry, it's too late now. We're past the point of no return. So Rav Baruch was divorced. And he remarried. Amar Rab Abba Bar Kana, Ma'idich Siv, it says in the Pasuk, and this is what Avraham Avinu told HaKadosh Baruch Hu when they were negotiating over Sodom. And he said, Chalila lecha me'asois kadavar hazeh laham is tzadikim Russia. If there are tzadikim in Sodom, Chalila lecha, it doesn't pass for you to kill the tzaddik with the Russia, to throw out the baby with the bathwater, as they say. Amar Avram lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribono Shel Olam, chulanu, sepast euch nicht. It's beneath you. It's too prost. Me'asois kadavar hazeh laham is tzadikim Russia. It's not. It doesn't happen that HaKadosh Baruch Hu kills a tzaddik with a rasha. I thought we see many times the tzaddik gets swept up with the punishment of the rasha. Tzedek tzaddik virasha. That's b'tzaddik she'ein gomer. A tzaddik she'ein gomer could get swept up with the rasha. Aval the tzaddik gomer, someone who's a tzaddik gomer, loy, he will not get swept up with the rasha. And this is talking about when HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave instructions to the mashkes to destroy the Beis Hamikdash. I think it's Ois Mem Zayin. So let's look at the pasuk. It's a very interesting pasuk. Pasuk says, Tes Zayin, sorry. So in Tes Zayin over here, it says as follows: V'amart la'admas Yisrael. V'amart la'admas Yisrael. State to the land of Israel. Kol Yamar Hashem. Hineni elecha v'yitzesi charbi mitayra. I'm going to take my sword out. V'charati mimcha tzadik v'rasha. I'm sorry, that's not the pasuk that I was looking for. Oh, here it is. Zaken bachur uvesula taf v'noshim tahagu lemashchus. You should kill everybody and destroy everybody. V'al kol ish asher olav hatov. But whoever has tov, which the Gemara says soon means he knows kol tarakula and he's mekayim kol tarakula from aleph to tov, al tikshu. Him you shouldn't touch. But you know where you should start from? Who should you start killing first? Umimikdoshai tachelu. Who should you start killing? Those that are close to me. But yachaylu ba'anoshim azakenim asher lefnei boys. And who did the Masha start killing first? The tzaddikim that are around the Beis Hamikdash. So afraid to Gemara. V'aksiv v'charati mimcha tzadik v'rashos, that's what tzadik shkedim. V'aksiv umimikdoshai tachelu. You should start from the holiest. But tell you Rabbi Yosef, I'll take mimikdoshi from my Beis Hamikdash, elo mimikudoshai, from the people that are makadosh me, from the tzaddikim. Elu b'nei adam shekaimu haTorah me aleph v'atov. Who should you kill first in this terrible churban? The people who were makayim the Torah from aleph to tov. So once again, this sounds like a tzaddik gomer, and we just said a tzaddik gomer will not get swept up in the destruction of the einish. The Gemara, even though he was Makayim the Torah from Aleph to Tov, he's still a tzaddik she'ein gomer. Why? They could have protested and objected to the averis that the people of their generation was doing, and they didn't. They're treated like tzaddikim she'einam gemurim, and therefore they get swept up and punished with the bunch. And here we have a big chiddush. Because Tosfos says, "Shehaya b'yodam limchais." Frek Tosfos v'hadam reading b'soif cheskas habatim in Bava Basra at the end of Perek cheskas habatim. The Gemara tells us, "Mutav shiyushagin v'yum azidin." There's another concept. Why should they give Musar if Klal Yisrael wasn't going to listen? Better they shouldn't know. So why are you buzzing these Yidden for not protesting? They would not have been listened to anyway. Dr. Gemara, the only time you say that is Hainu V'davar Shoyadua Shelo Yikablu Im Yimachu. If they're 1,000% sure that any of their objections will be useless, but won't go anywhere, then they shouldn't. Because then you have to swear Mutav Shishagin. But if it's even possible that they might listen, you have to object. And the Mefarshim tell us, even if Klapi Shema Galia, even if Lamaisa they wouldn't listen anyway, and in fact by the Churban, even if the Gedolim would have been Moicha, they would not have listened. But it doesn't make a difference because you don't know that. Until you can verify that they're not going to listen to you, you have a chiyuv to object. So it seems like it's not even about stopping them. You have to show your displeasure, unless it can harm them, because now they're going to be mizid. Rav Papa Rami, Rav Papa had a stira. It says, "Keil zoyim b'chol yoyim." The Baruch Hu gets angry for a moment every day. Uchsiv lifnei zamin miyamot. Who can possibly withstand the anger of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? So the question is, how is it possible if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is zoyim every day? How are we surviving? So Lakasha can be yochid, can be tzibur. So Zakir be yochid miyamot. A yochid would never be able to withstand the zoyim of Hashem. But tzibur afal gav the b'chayim zoyim eskaimim. As a tzibur, we will survive. Right, this is the Gemara that was involved with Bilaam. Right, Bilaam knew exactly what time that was, which the Gemara is going to discuss now. The Kama Zamai, how long does a Kodesh Baruch Hu get angry for? Rega, a moment. The Kama Rega, how much is a Rega? Listen to this. Achas mechama shriboy, so chama shriboy is 50,000. Ushloish shalofim and 3,000, so 53,000. Ushmoyne meyas and 800 varbo mushmoyne. So it's one over 53,848 of an hour. That's a very short period of time. Zui Rega, that is the Rega. It's a flash of time that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Zoyim. Nobody could know exactly when that Rega is, except for Bilaam Arasha. The Torah says, in reference to Bilaam, Yoideya Das Elyon. He knew exactly what HaKadosh Baruch Hu was thinking. And Tosha says he knew it. Mashma me'atzmai v'lei me'nevuah. He was a chochem, and he wasn't nevuah. And this is an important factor to understand the next Gemara's kasha. So therefore the Gemara asks, I don't understand. Das behem deloy havayada. He didn't even understand his behema. Das elam havayada. If it's nevuah, it's not a kasha. What was given to him, the nevuah was given to him. It wasn't. But if you tell me he had wisdom to understand the Rebbeinu Shalom, to be able to anticipate the Rebbeinu Shalom starts, so he didn't understand his behema. He's going to understand the Rebbeinu Shalom. So Gemara, my das behem deloy havayada. What do we mean when we say he didn't understand his behema? Because when they saw that he was riding a donkey, which is a slow animal, it's not the white stallion that you would expect of a man in stature. My time you should be riding a Ford Mustang. Why are you riding a Ford Escort? You should be riding a Ford Mustang. You're riding an Escort. You should be riding a Mustang. No, Berativa Shadoila. My Mustang is in the shop. It's getting repaired. Retiva means ba'achu, in the meadow. It's grazing now. Miyad. So right away the Asan, obviously Bilaam couldn't read his Asan's mind because the Asan interjected. But Tamer Asan, what are you talking about? I am your main ride. I am your donkey. Amr la Latina Balma. Yeah, sure, you're a Ford Escort, but I just use you for packaging. You're like my pickup truck, but you're not my ride. Sure, I have a whole transport company. I'm a big guy, but my ride is a Mustang. Amr lay. So the donkey says, "What are you talking about? I am your main ride." I only ride you from time to time when the Mustang is in the shop. Amr lay, what are you talking about? Donkey said, "From day one, I was your main ride." And not only that, not only am I your main ride, I'm also your escort at night. It says here, the donkey said, "Hahaskin iskanti." Would I do that? Hahaskin iskanti. What does it mean? So Taichin iskanti means would I lie? Would I put you into danger? But it says referring to a woman who is warming up. David HaMelech. It means it's referring to relations that they had. So clearly, Bilaam was no great chacham that he was able to understand the das of a Kodesh Baruch Hu. He couldn't even understand the das of an animal. So what does it mean by Yodea das elyon? He was able to pinpoint the moment that a Kodesh Baruch Hu was angry, and in that moment to curse. Ami, my nation, Zachar na. Remember, Mayot Bolak Melech Moav. What Melech Moav? What his eight was to get Bilaam to curse you? Uma'ana is a Bilaam ben Baar. and how Bilam ended up giving him the Eitzah to get Klal Yisrael to be Mizaneh, Minashitim Vada Gilgal. And they were Mizaneh from Shittim, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu protected us until Gilgal. L'man das tzidkos Hashem. Zokt Rashi, Minashitim Vada Gilgal, Ad Boyachem El HaGilgal, until you reach Gilgal, Shipalti Lefnechem Sonechem. In Gilgal, I let you wipe out your enemies. Omar Rabbi Elazar explains this passage. Omar HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael, Ami, my dear nation, Re'u see, the Tziyonim saying to do, no, Kama Tidkos Asisi Imachem. Think of the kindness that I did with you. Shloki Asti Aleichem Kol Oisem Ayomim. All those days, I missed my moment of Chema. Shim Asti Aleichem, if there would have been Kas in those days, Lanishtar Me'ev Tekachavim Mishanein Shal Yisrael Sorid Upolit. It's speaking Lashon Sagi Nar Keneged Taneim Shal Yisrael, but their Chaman L'Tlana would have been devastation. That's what Bilam told Balak. How could I curse them? HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't get angry today. How could I make Hashem angry? Hashem. How long is the HaKadosh Baruch Hu angry for? Which we already had Lamed Aleph. Rega, a moment. Rega. Amar Amemar V'Temer Rabina. Rega Kememre. In the amount of time that it takes to say the word Rega. Now, the Mepharshim speak out. You cannot say the word Rega 53,848 times in an hour. It will be impossible. So how does this work? So there's a little discussion around that. But let's just quickly see what Tosfos says. Rega Kememar What type of curse, even if it's the amount of time it takes to say the word Rega, what type of curse could Bilam have already said in that brief moment? So Tosfos two Terusim. Either V'yeshlemer Hayomer Kalem, destroy them. That's just one small word. HaKadosh Baruch Hu changed the word from Kalem to Melech. As long as Bilam would start his klala during the time of Zam, then he would have time to finish it. Teda, so you're right to laharch b'klalosa. He wanted to provide an extended klala, kadisa b'chelek, and the Gemara in the Perek that we just learned tells us that there were some long-winded curses that Bilam had intended to give. So there's a discussion if Rega is Rega Kememre, how does that correspond with Rega being a flash? So there are those who say that could be we have to be garish differently in the Friedrich Sugya. But the only shot I saw that makes the two work together is the minimum shear of the Zaima is a flash. But the Zaima could be longer as well. It could be extended. So it varies. It's not always the same every day. So what happened was is maybe normally, on a normal day, it would be Rega Kememre. And that's how Bilam wanted to attack Klal Yisrael. But the curse like during that time, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu made it to the bare minimum. It should be a flash, and that's why Bilam couldn't cop it.
Come up with that number.
I'm not sure. You have to have that. The Gemara sometimes discusses how do they know. So sometimes the Gemara says they know it from the Rebbe, the Chachma, and some of them says Soid Hashem Lireyav. Zok Gemara uminol the Rega Havarish. And how do you know it's a Rega? Or maybe it's from a different pasuk. It says Chavi Kamat Rega, just hide for a Rega ad Yavar Zam. So you see the Zam lasts for a Rega. Amos Rosach. At what time during the day is the anger? Amar Bai Bitlosa Shoy Kamaisa. During the first 3 hours of the day, when the red crown of the rooster goes white. In fact, what do you mean? Chiyura is white or Chiyura is red? I think it means it's white.
Pale.
I'm sorry? It pales, okay. It always goes pale. Even when it goes pale, it has some red streaks in it, bright red streaks. It goes completely pale, and that's a sign that it's a Shas Zam. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi have a mitzvah le'ahumina. He was being bothered. There was a curse that was bothering him. Bekroy with psukim, mentioning him. Yom Echad, one day he decided that he's going to curse this min, but he's going to have to do it at a time where it'll work. So he wanted to also be masbin at that time of Rasicha. So Nakatan goes, he took a chicken, look at being Kardash, and he put it by his bed. I don't know how his wife allowed this, but Ayin Bein is watching. So he thought, Kimota, he shaita, Alat, at that moment he'll curse this min. Kimota, he shaita, and Nimnem, he fell asleep. So Yisrael Baruch Hu prevented him from doing that. Omar Shmamina Lav Oirich Ira Lemebra. You're not supposed to. It also says, it's not good for a tzaddik to inflict punishment. Leave that to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Now, the issue here is, the halach is a min, you're allowed to kill him. You're allowed to take him down to a bar and kill him. So what's pshat? That here it's not good. So Zok Toisfis, kill him, be a dime, you're allowed to do. But to make Hashem punish him, that doesn't pass. Don't force Hashem to punish him. You can do your own thing if you have to do that. Why is that time a time of kas for Kodesh Baruch Hu? Because that's the time where the kings of the world do avodah zarah to the chama. So Kodesh Baruch Hu gets very upset that all the kings of the world are bowing down to the chama and are publicly being over avodah zarah and denying the existence of a Kodesh Baruch Hu. Amar Yosy, literally in the musvi. You shouldn't daven musaf in the first 9 hours of the day, on the first day of Rosh Hashanah, b'yachid. So don't daven b'yachidus musaf in the first 9 hours of Rosh Hashanah on the first day. Why? Dilma kiva the mifkedina, since that's a time of din. Dilma ma'ainu be'uvdei, maybe they're going to look too much into your individual ma'asim that might not make the grade. V'dach v'lemitchid, or push away your tefillah. Frank the Gemara, ihaki the tzibur nami. So even if you're davening with tzibur, there might be that problem. So tomorrow, no, the tzibur did not nefisha schusei. A tzibur has a lot of schusim. Frank the Gemara, ihaki the yachid the tzafar nami loy. So why dafka musaf shachris as well? He could have that problem. So tomorrow, no. Because everybody davens shachris in the morning. So even though he's not in a minyan, but he's davening at a time where there are minyanim all over davening, that's enough to, it's not tefillah b'tzibur, but it's enough to prevent his tefillah from being pushed away. But musaf, where people daven musaf earlier or later, some people have a bigger break, some people have a smaller break, you don't want to daven by yourself because you might not correspond and coordinate to be davening when there's a tzibur. In fact, the Gemara, didn't we just say yesterday that Shalosh Rishon is the first 3 hours of the day? So then why shouldn't that be a problem? In the first 3 hours, you don't have a problem. The Gemara Epoch, maybe it means the second 3 hours, but the first 3 hours during Shachris, maybe because Baruch Hu is Yosef with him. Don't be Sepach. In other words, the first 3 hours are coming. Shem is with Torah. The second 3 hours, the Shem is within. But Torah dechsiv ba emes. Dechsiv emes knei ve'al timker. Be kind of Torah, but don't sell Torah. Meaning, if you teach Torah, you should teach it for free, but you should pay to learn Torah if necessary. There ain't a Kadosh Baruch Hu oisel lefinim mishur zadin. The Torah is emes. It's got to be exactly emes. So Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't deviate from the emes. That's not a good time to go into din because emes doesn't always work so good in din. But the 3 hours, the second set of 3 hours where Kadosh Baruch Hu is sitting with din, the like siv by emes, by din it doesn't say emes. There Kadosh Baruch Hu oisel lefinim mishur zadin. A friend of mine told me, Tommy Sandell, I don't know if anyone remembers Tommy Sandell. So Tommy Sandell used to live on Elderberry. He once told me that he had a friend, a Skver Chusid, who was on trial for some type of mitzvahs and ma'asim tovim. And he went to the Skver Rebbe and he asked the Skver Rebbe, I need a bracha because I'm going into the severe trial. So the Rebbe told him, you have nothing to worry about. I promise you the emes is going to come out. So the Chusid told the Rebbe, Chas v'sholem, the emes shouldn't come out. That's the last thing I want to happen, is that the emes should come out. But when we're in the 3 hours where emes is stressed, that's not such a good time to go to din. Go to a din where things are fuzzy, where Kadosh Baruch Hu could make things better for us. Zok Gemara weiter. Yom meid teref be'egel sibin. Gufa. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Ma'adich says in the pasuk, Asher anoichim mitavcha yom la'asoisam. We had this pasuk when Kadosh Baruch Hu was talking to the goyim and telling the goyim the time to do mitzvahs is now, not after Mashiach comes. Hayom la'asoisam. It's too late. We do the mitzvahs now, the schar comes later. All the mitzvahs that Klal Yisrael do, come say testimony. The mitzvahs themselves say testimony on our behalf. The mitzvahs will come and say edus for us. Yishmu, the goyim will hear v'yomer emes. So we darshan yitnu them means to go elu Yisrael. The mitzvahs are saying testimony to support the yin. Yishmu v'yomer emes elu of the kachavim. They will agree that yes, the Jews did those mitzvahs. V'amar Rabbi Shua ben Levi kol mitzvahs Yisrael oisem by the bazeh bois v'tarfos oisam lo'oiv the kachavim l'mabo al pneim. The mitzvahs themselves come and slap the guy across the face. Why didn't you do these mitzvahs? You yourself are even mightier. You're saying testimony that the did the mitzvahs. You should have done them yourself. Why is it called la'ena? Neged ha'amim. It doesn't just say that the mitzvahs were in front of the nations. It was in their eyes. It teaches us all the mitzvahs that they could have done, that they didn't, they get slapped. Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu make it that the Dor Deah, we can't even come close to those Eden? They were like Adam Rishon Kodem Echet, right? They were unbelievable. How was it that they fell so far and so hard and were Ovid Avodah Zarah, they were Ovid Ego? Because Baruch Hu made that happen. You know why? Elalita and Pischa Pel Abale Tshuva. So that anytime someone's depressed, I've done so many averos, I'm hopeless. Hashem will say, can anyone be more hopeless than someone who did Avodah Zarah? And even they were able to do tshuva, that was makabelit. You could do it as well. Shenemar miyitein v'haya levavim zeh lahem. Halavai, that everybody should have the hearts that the Dor Hamidbar had. Liyira oisa kol hayamim. V'haini d'amar of Yochanan. In other words, they had such a great heart, yet they were still chayte to teach us that you can always do tshuva. David was a great tzaddik. It was beneath him to be nichshol in the aver of Basheva. What's happened? But HaKadosh Baruch Hu made it happen. The Klal Yisrael in the Dor Midbar, they were such a high madrega. How could they fall to such a low level? David HaMelech said that my heart is Rashi's Yetzer Arach Cholo Bekirbi Ein Lo Koyach Lishlo Bekirbi. He's the Yetzer Hara is destroyed inside me. He can't control me. Yet David was nichshal. V'lo Yisrael ruin like Semaisha D'chsev Miyitin V'ayil Levavim Zel Lahem L'Yira Yishakal Yomim. Meaning HaKadosh Baruch Hu was saying Halabai they should have such a heart of fighting the negative Yetzer Hara. Halabai that should last for that forever. And Lama also. So why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu make it that Klal Yisrael should be nichshal? Lo Melach to tell you. She'im Chata Yochid. If a Yochid does an avera and now he's giving up, he feels depressed, he doesn't want to do tshuva. What are you talking about? Look at David HaMelech. Look what a terrible affair he did, and look, he did tshuva. And even if the tzibur was chayda, the tzibur might say, you know what? We're a lost cause. Look at the Dor Mitzvah. Why do we need to tell this lesson, Tzai for a yochid and Tzai for a tzibur? I mean, why are they different? Yes, we need yochid. Mishum delema farsim chatoy. But yochid doesn't aver. It's not a chil Hashem. Not everybody knows about his aver. So therefore, he could have a kapara no matter how low he sunk. But if a tzibur did an aver, which a chil Hashem, maybe they couldn't have tshuva. That's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu had to show them with the egel. V'yashmi and tzibur, but if we only knew that a tzibur could do tshuva, mishum to the fisher achmayu. A tzibur has a special shat in the shmaya, like we learned yesterday. Their tefillas are not nitcha, so maybe they could do tshuva. Avol yachid, the lo alimas chusa, he does not have such great chusum. Emaloi, you would have thought that maybe they cannot do tshuva. Shricha kamash malon, that anybody could do tshuva. We'll stop here, Be'ez Hashem, and tomorrow we'll learn dafei. Everyone should have an awesomely wonderful day.
Yeah.
Go ahead. David, we miss you. Where are you?
I'm in New York.